Thank you guys for joining us. My name is Tara Coleman, and I am an assistant publicist here at Brown Books Publishing. And on behalf of Brown, I am so excited to be introducing you to Tracy Richardson and Traci Harding, discussing all things sci-fi in a free-flowing conversation. Before diving into the discussion, I do want to remind you that their books can be bought through the bookstore where you had originally heard of the event and on their websites. And we will be posting those websites in the comments, as well as Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So a little introduction. Tracy Richardson is the author of the Catalyst series, a young adult series, which has won the Eric Hoffer Award and has an American Fiction Awards finalist. Tracy has a degree in biology, and her science background plays a significant role in her writing. Her books are set in real time with themes that include quantum physics, the collective consciousness, the universal energy field, and the protecting of the environment. There is no second planet. Tracy lives in Indianapolis and enjoys crafting, cooking, and being outdoors. Our second author is Traci Harding. She's a bestseller of the Ancient Future series and has published 21 books. Her work blends fantasy, fact, historic theory, time travel, and quantum physics as well into an adventurous romp through history, alternative dimensions, universes, and states of consciousness. Her books have been published in several languages throughout the world. Tracy's latest release, This Present Past, a prequel to the Ancient Future series, is currently under option and being developed as a TV series. So before handing it off to Tracy, I would like to remind you all that there is a chat feature on the side of your screen. And if you have any questions that you would like us to ask, please enter them into the chat and we will get to as many as we can during the Q&A portion of the event. All right, guys, I'm handing it off to you.
Okay, then. Well, I'll take over because I'm the one doing the interviewing. And what I thought I'd start with is why Tracy and me, besides we share a name in common, why Tracy and I got together to do this interview. And I'll let Tracy give you her version of it because it was actually Tracy that contacted me. So I'll hand it over to you to why us.
Thank you so much. So it's kind of a cool story. One of my reviewers who reviewed Catalyst compared my books to yours. And I had been looking for another author who had similar themes in fiction, and it was kind of hard to find. So I reached out to you and ordered some of your books, started reading, and then when it came time to do this kind of an event, we needed an author of note, and I thought, well, you would be perfect. And so we connected and became friends right off the bat, like really gelled. And so
yeah, that was easy, that conversation.
It was, yeah, it was great. So we do have similar themes in our books, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I mean, for years and years, I mean, I've been able to recommend people to maybe like Jane Roberts. I think she was about the only one. She used to channel Seth Speaks.
Yep,
she was about the only one that could really refer people to go, yeah, that's kind of like my books. But then that was before quantum. So that was really more when we had all the metaphysical terms to explain what was going on, but we didn't have like all the quantum terms at that time. That didn't really come in until I'd got to about book 14 or something. And so up until that point, all we had to talk about metaphysics or creating your own reality, which is a theme that's been in my book since the get-go, since the Ancient Future back in 1996. So to like trying to find somebody to actually go, oh, here's somebody who writes like me. I mean, Kim Falconer, she's another Australian author. She's another one that's kind of gone into quantum, and you can definitely feel the soul of her characters. And that's the thing that you get, I think, is a real kind of soul with the characters. So how did you, because we have similar, like you wrote a book called The Field, I wrote a book called Being of the Field at about the same time because we were both influenced by
The Field book. In fact, I have it here. It's Lynn, and you can see on my little tabs. Yep, it's Lynn McTaggart's book called The Field, The Quest for the Secret Force of the Universe. And the really cool thing about it is it's based on science, and it's based on quantum physics, and that's where, so in the bio it said I have a science background, so I'm a complete science geek. So reading this, where all these things like what you said we used to look at as an esoteric metaphysical kind of thing, it's explained by science. And so exactly. I try in my stories, and I think you do too, with fiction isn't real, but it's true. So when you're writing about fiction, it's a great teacher, and you can put these ideas into a format that someone who's not a scientist can maybe digest a little more easily and see, oh, that might be true.
And even someone who's not even really very spiritual at all, because a lot of people, religion doesn't really do it for them, and they're looking for something else. Quantum physics sounds all really, and you look at metaphysics, that also sounds pretty out there. And you say something like, what's the word I'm looking for? People think it's a cult quite often, which is completely different kettle of fish.
Kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, no. And that's the thing, even way back with like Blavatsky with the Metaphysical Society, like the Theosophical Society, she was talking in terms of quantum physics, but using a different language. They would talk about this quicksilver, and rather than like ORM, say orbitally rearranged monatomic elements, which is also a whole part of the 0-point field theory, like how they discovered the 0-point field,
right,
and all that sort of, which you'll find out if you go read Lynn or read either one of us too. We'll take you there eventually, and that's what I noticed reading The Field, was that I love the way that you took something like soccer, okay, probably jocks are not the first guys that would do a lot of reading, but to be able to relate to something like quantum physics through sport, all of a sudden you understand, like, yes, you go run the race the night before you do the race in your head, and you will run the race so much better. I used to be a dancer, same thing, when you're doing a performance or even something like this.
Yes.
You just see it going well, and the next day it makes it so much easier, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So what attracted you to Lynn?
Well, I had been reading a lot of different I've been reading physicists. I've been reading things like Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, a lot of those people. And then she was kind of connected to that group of people. And if you look in the back of her book, the bibliography is pages and pages long. So it just kept kind of pointing to her. And I read another book called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, which is...
Yeah, I've got that up here too.
Yeah, which also talks about that. I mean, it's so much about how the power of our minds and this universal collective consciousness and this universal energy field or 0-point field. There's a physicist from the 1800s, a Scottish, and we were talking about Scotland earlier. He's a Scottish physicist, Clerk Maxwell. About it. Yeah, he talked about it. So now we have the terms to use to talk about what exactly it is and to measure it. You held up the intention experiment, another one of Lynn's books. They talk about like the power of prayer. So you don't have to, and you said, you don't have to be religious. It could be a nun. It could be an American Indian shaman. It could be... Yeah,
they use Buddhists, I think, in a few experiments, like Buddhist monks.
Yeah, but what they show is that this thought, intention, can affect outcomes for health, is what they often do. And that's in the book too. Just fascinating stuff.
Well, I think it was What the Bleep Do We Know when I saw that film. I actually literally cried that people could stop telling me that I was insane, and I actually had science to back up what I was trying to tell people, which is everything is relative to the observer. They've proved that with the double slit experiment.
Right.
If you've never seen the double slit experiment, go look it up, because it's very, very interesting how our thought affects what's going on around us. And that scares a lot of people because they don't want to be responsible.
Right.
It's like, no, that's all too much. But when you do, you stop kind of getting battered around by fate, and you do have things start to roll the way you want them to. And that's what the intention experiment was all about, is actually learning how to control that mindset. But with your books and with my books, you're actually leading the reader through not only the science, but kind of just readjusting their brain while they're reading, without them even being aware of it. And all of a sudden they're coming out of it going, wow, I feel so good. I don't know why. I don't know why I've got to read your books to sort of get that. And it's because you're having all that positive reinforcement kind of put into your head.
Well, and it's also kind of like, oh, I knew that. I knew that was true, but I couldn't trust myself. Marianne Williamson has a quote that goes something like, our biggest fear is not that we're going to fail, or something like that. Our biggest fear is that we are more powerful than we could ever have imagined. And I'm saying it.
That was Nelson Mandela, I think.
Was it? Well, she said it too. So yeah, but it's basically, you know, we have this ability, but it's kind of terrifying when you take it into your own hands.
Well, it is until you actually learn how to use it. Then it's really fun. That's magic. That's what magic is. You know, when they talk about people being able to perform magic, do magical things, it's just that mind over matter, and realizing that what is out here is an illusion. And everybody will go, oh, no, it isn't. It's like, well, look at the science. Actually, it is. That's just a whole lot of molecules you're sitting on right now. They could just disappear like that, you know, zero-point field theory.
Well, in fact, I saw an article, and I'm not going to remember the term, but they've discovered a particle that doesn't act according to the known laws of physics. And it's
is that a neutrino? Neutrino?
No, it's like a muon or something like that. It's a new one. Right. Yeah. But they're saying, that's what science is. You have these rules, and then you find something that breaks the rules. So they're thinking that might be the particle that's the field.
That's kind of blending everything together, because you know from watching, like in Being in the Field, which is the one of mine that you got, I actually bring up that experiment about, you know, the people that get prayed for heal quicker, and the people that were in the other group don't so much. But the real clincher for that experiment is that the healing took place 4 years in the future of the people that were being healed. So not only did it have an effect on the people that got prayed for, but it can actually be directional forward or backwards through time. Like, they prove time is not linear. And the best conversation I ever had was on a bus, where I bumped into the two scientists that actually did that experiment.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going, I've just been reading your research. And we were off. We had the whole bus just going, oh my God.
And you know, there's no coincidences. That was not a coincidence.
No. That's right. And you can actually heal the past yourself too. That's why people do things like rebirthing, where you're actually going back, reliving the experience and doing it differently, you know. So all these kind of new age therapies that people think probably are a bit woo-woo, actually, no, they're not. Like, if you look at the science of it, and it's just what we don't know. As you said, it's like everything is a cult until it's proven, and then it becomes science.
Right. Exactly.
So, for the people that aren't familiar with your work, just give us a little bit of a kind of synopsis about the field.
Okay, so the field is about a high school soccer goalkeeper who has a supernatural ability to know where the ball is going to go before it gets there. So he's accessing the field, the collective consciousness. And he's also a high school student. He's trying to get the girl. He's trying to make the soccer team. And he has a friend who's acting like a jerk. So he's got other things going on. Yeah. And then Catalyst is a companion book. It's not a sequel, but it's the same family. So it's Marcy, Eric's younger sister. And they are on an archaeological dig in southern Indiana. And things start going strange pretty quickly when they meet two of the graduate assistants on the dig, who are way more than they show themselves to be initially. I also have an environmental theme in all of my books. So the field is talking about clean energy sources such as wind, solar, and hydro. and then compares that to so-called clean coal, which is not clean. So that's kind of an environmental theme, yeah. And then, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been watching, I don't know if anybody knows the earthquake guy who's on YouTube, but I've been watching him, and he tracks all the earthquakes that are going on all over the planet every day. And every time he zooms into one in the US, there's a fracking
that's Catalyst. Right? Yeah, that's Catalyst. So Catalyst has a much stronger theme of environmental, and it's fracking. So I made up a story about fracking happening in southern Indiana, which is not really a big fracking area, but so that's the theme,
But give them a bit of gas and they'll frack.
Exactly.
Let them find it. I was actually watching a guy in Australia, and this is so typical of an Australian guy, I tell you. He was trying to explain that the river had all these chemicals in it. So he's in a boat, a dinghy, and he lights it, the water. The water catches fire.
Is he in the boat and the fire's all around him? Yeah.
It's like, you didn't think that one through completely. Totally proved your point. Make a great YouTube video, but didn't quite think that one through.
Yeah.
So for people that are here for kind of, because I know when I do a lot of my interviews with writers, I like to ask about the writing process, because a lot of people who are writers are interested in that kind of thing. And so I kind of wanted to ask you, what inspired you to become a writer?
When my kids started reading, so elementary school, I started going back and rereading all of these books that I had loved. And I started writing my own stories. I had stories. I actually owned a publishing company for a number of years. And so published my own works and others. But just, I was a science major. That was not my thing. I was not a girl who was going to be a writer, but I have these stories and I really enjoy the process, and I come about it from a very organized kind of way, in a way. But just to talk about that, we had a conversation, you and I, about what kind of writer we are. And there's outliner, and then they have this term called pantser, which we both hate, which is writing by the seat of your pants, which we're neither of those. You had said, well, I'll let you say what you are, but I'll say what I am. I'm an archaeologist. I cover the story. It feels like it's already there, and I'm just taking the dirt away and uncovering it as I go.
Yeah, for me, we have a writer here, Isabel Carmody, and she was the first one to coin the phrase that I know of, and that was, instead of being a plotter, so they're the people that plot the story out, you were a panther, and that was somebody who stalked the story. You didn't want to know what the story was beforehand, because you can't surprise anybody that way. It's kind of like taking a trip, planning the whole trip before you go, sticking entirely to this, not listening to what the locals have got to say, and not thinking anybody can tell you anything about the country that you've never been to, right? So for me, I like to just let the characters lead me where they're going. I can stop and research if I have to. Quite often I have to. Like, I'll just get a little thought in my brain. It's like, go look this up, or go check that, or go see if this is true. Because I like to put as much reality in there as I can. It's up to the reader to define where the boundary between fantasy and reality stops. And I mean, that's true of life too, really, when you're talking about all of it. So for me, I'm definitely the other way. I don't like to, if I had to sit there and plot out a book before I wrote it, I would be so bored actually writing it. Well,
I would never get started, because I can't see the whole plot. I know the beginning, I kind of know the middle, and I sort of know the end. But when you start writing, things start happening, and you're like, oh, yeah, what's going to happen?
Exactly. I mean, seriously, I've had my characters absolutely, I just kill myself laughing, where they'll just do something out of the blue, or my jaw will drop where they just, do something really unexpected, or that I didn't see coming, which of course is thrilling, because if I didn't see it coming, nobody else saw it coming either, which is, because this is the problem I have with watching so many TV series and movies is like, I can tell you probably from the first 5 minutes of the film exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to unfold, what the ending's going to be, and how big the budget's going to be.
Yeah, my boyfriend and I have that game. Can we figure out who's going to tell the end of the show we're watching?
Yeah, or they get too smart where it's just like the whole thing doesn't make sense until the last 5 minutes, but then nobody cares because they've got frustrated with it way back there and haven't finished watching.
They're cheating. You have to give some clues ahead. You have to.
Everybody was raving about Inception, and I remember going to see it and getting to the end and going, so they didn't know what to do with the ending. Is that what you're telling me? It's like, what a cop out. Come on. They go, no, you're supposed to imagine what happened. It's like, well, what did I pay them for?
Right.
I can't imagine it. But I mean, don't lay it out on a silver platter either, but, finish the film. So with writing, do you have a time? Do you have like like, for me, for example, when I had young kids, I used to get up and write in the middle of the night. Like I'd feed one, put it down, go write till 5 o'clock in the morning. These days, it's kind of like when the kids are at school, although I've just about finished with kids at school as well, which is very exciting. But how do you do it?
So I am not at the place where you are, where I'm writing full time. So I have a full-time day job. So I write on Saturday and Sunday mornings, about hours or so. So I'm not cranking out the kind of word count that I'd like to. I try and write during the week sometimes, but by the end of the day, it's just hard to focus. But I would say, that's what I've been doing. Saturday morning, I'll get up, have my coffee. If I try not to procrastinate too much, and then get to writing for 3 hours or so.
Yeah, it's hard enough doing it full time, the procrastination, that is. It's like, oh, I'll have a cup of tea, or I'll just put that load of washing, I just did it. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Actually, Isabel.
Well, and that's interesting, because people will ask me, I ask you all the time, oh, I have a book I want to write. What should I do? And every author always says, butt in chair. You have to actually sit down and write the book, because, otherwise you're just talking about it.
No, a worst one is, I have a really great book, you should write it. It's like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God. I need therapy after statements like that.
Yeah.
Just no, please. It's like I have a zillion. They're lined up. My muses are like lined up for weeks.
Well, I'd like to know where you get your ideas for all of your stories, because you've written so many, and it just seems like, are you thinking ahead? Like you have a book already in mind for the next one? Or
I would say the key thing that drives me with a story is I'm into earth mysteries, any sort of earth mysteries, like where we came from, usually the great big huge questions, like what the Gnostics were talking about when they were talking about the archons, things like that. Like that just drove my last book. Like it was just like I have to completely dive into that and find out what the story was. And even if it went on for 10,000 years, that's fine. We can cover that. And I do, and that's what drives me. It's like I'll usually find a mystery. I love playing with time travel. That's one of my favorite things to play with. And if it's not time travel, it'll be like big jumps through time, like different periods. I like to have different eras driving each other. And I like to go, if there's somewhere I want to go explore, it's like, I think we got to the end of the light field, and all I knew is we were going somewhere with pyramids. And I'm going, oh, no, I don't want to do ancient Egypt. It's been done to death. And it's like, well, there's pyramids other places, And I'm going, yeah, like where? It's like, well, go and investigate. And so I did. And I came out with China. I'm just going, oh my God. So
I just finished Echo in Time, the second in the Ancient Future trilogy. And she travels back to Atlantis, and then to the 20th century, and then to the 13th century, and all, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, we go everywhere, man. There's nowhere my characters won't go. They're famous for just diving right in and just going anywhere, which is why that particular trilogy, that particular story, I mean, I thought it was a short story and it was a trilogy, and then it grew into universe. Like, I mean, we started crossing universes. Like, we're dealing with 4 universes by the end of the thing. It's like Stargate, only it's like Game of Thrones on steroids.
I find it really cool that you start off with a small idea, but then when you get, 2-3 books down the road, it's like, oh, well, that thing that happened in the first book has set up this thing that's happening in the fourth book that I didn't even know was going to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being in the field was a whole new trilogy, I thought. And I'm walking around this spaceship recognizing everyone, going, why am I recognizing everyone? It's like, oh no, oh God.
I thought I was rid of you, Melvin, but no, you're back.
Yeah, exactly. Your name might be Lucha now, but you're not fooling me. I know who you are. I know who you are. Oh my God, here we go again. So yeah. So really my characters inspire me too. Like, and I think that's why my readers have to just keep going back and rereading and reread, because they just want to spend time with those people, because they grow so much. Learning as I learn, you know, I've learned the esoteric stuff, I've learned the quantum stuff, and they've been learning with me all the way along. So they're growing. And this is, every time my readers go back and read it again, they've kind of grown as a person, and they get more out of it, which is why some of the books, my books, look like they've kind of come out of the Alexandra Library or something, because they've been around for like a couple of thousand years, because they've been so battered and bruised.
But that's interesting, because I feel like I've grown in my books. I came out a little softer in the field. I wasn't ready to be all out with some of these ideas. And now that I'm writing the third book in the series, it's out there. I mean, it's all out there. I'm bearing my soul.
Oh, blazing.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you think I am. It's, you know, and I mean,
it's science. It's based in science.
Exactly. I mean, when I wrote the Ancient Future, people were saying, "Oh, the ideology is insane. You know, it's ridiculous." And so, I mean, that's why I was in tears when I saw Being in the Field, because it was like, "Oh my God, thank God, finally, science caught up." You know, I mean, they've actually discovered. They think they've discovered that we've got a soul. Breakthrough.
Yeah.
I think the ancient Egyptians knew that, but okay, that's good.
Yeah.